Hello again and welcome back to the studio.
So what can you do to keep making art when you're low on energy or time? When it comes to art and chronic illness, it can be helpful to find some workarounds that help you to use your art time wisely and get the job done faster without wasting any energy. If you also deal with challenges such as illness, fatigue, or lack of time, this video is just for you. Watch me work on this peaceful little beach scene while I'll share my best tips for saving energy and time for painting. Managing your energy and pacing yourself is so important. The more energy you can save during the process, the more you'll have for your art and the better the result will be. My biggest piece of advice would be to, before you even start, to set yourself up for success. Choose energy-friendly mediums. Like acrylic and oils are great because they come ready to use and you don't need to constantly jump up and down to refill jars of water like you do with watercolor. I also like to use pre-prepared paper for my studies because paper is lighter and it's easier to handle than canvas. Today I'm painting on board, but at the end of this video I'll link a video that I made explaining how to batch prepare toned paper for painting. I also like to keep my materials close to my art space. That means I don't have to keep getting up and down to get things during the painting process. I put my brushes and my palette on my dominant side. I'm right-handed, so I keep them on my right side, and that avoids wasting energy for me having to reach across my body to fetch things. And the same with the reference photo. I keep the reference right next to my canvas or paper so that it's always in view and I don't have to turn around unnecessarily to see what I'm doing. I think the next most important thing for me is to make sure I'm sitting comfortably. I make sure the lighting is good because squinting and straining your eyes can drain your energy really fast. And whenever possible, I like to sit at my desk or my easel instead of standing. In the olden days, before I got sick, I would stand at the easel for hours without any effort, but now I find it much easier to sit instead of to stand. I also adjust the easel more vertical so I don't have to lean over. That also wastes a lot of energy. You might want to try a little tabletop easel. I have a tabletop easel that I sit on my desk, and those work great because you can even use them from a recliner or even from your bed. I also have to make sure that I'm in a position that I don't have to reach above my head or my shoulders. Sometimes my hands get tired, I get hand fatigue, and if that's a challenge for you, you might want to try some stabilizing grips. You could also add hot glue lines or wrap rubber bands around your brush handles, and that will give you some better grip. You can also use longer handled brushes so you don't have to stretch as far to reach your paper or your surface. Okay, let's talk about the actual painting process. Now that we're comfy and we've got everything prepared and ready to go, we need to think about the painting process. I like to work on smaller pieces these days. Creating small pieces reduces physical demand, but it still lets me have a time of creativity, which is important. And small can be beautiful too. Not only big pieces of art are beautiful, there's lots of art that's small but just absolutely stunning to look at. And I also like to simplify. When I'm looking at an idea for a painting, I try and focus on only what matters in that painting. So I'd look at the image and say, what matters? Is the drawing part important? If it requires drawing, yes, that would be important. Are the colors important? Are the values important and the edges? And then I ask myself as I go along, if I leave this part out, will it still look like the subject I'm trying to paint? And if the answer is yes, then leave it out. You don't need it there. If people can tell what you're painting without adding all those extra details in, then all good. Also, break my projects down into little steps. Instead of finishing the whole painting in one sitting, like I used to do, I now aim for just one part at a time. Maybe I'll just add the shadows, and then I'll take a break, and then I'll come back and maybe put the highlights on. And maybe take another little break, and even the next day or the day after, whenever I feel rested and ready to go again, I'll come back and I'll add another little piece on. It doesn't all have to be done in the same day. I always do my small studies on the same day because they take about 10 to 15 minutes. But even with them, there are times when I've had to stop, take a break, and then go back to the study. So it just depends on your energy levels for that day or how much time you've got available. And speaking of time, I always use a timer to help me pace myself. And it helps you to take breaks before you get tired, before you start to feel fatigue. Once you feel the fatigue, you've already done too much. Once I'm finished painting for the day and I need to clean up, it doesn't have to be a long drawn-out process. Cleanup can be quick and energy friendly, and I've got it down to a fine art. If I'm painting with acrylics, I just pop my brushes in a jar of water. And if I'm painting in oils, I just pop the brushes in a jar of vegetable oil. We can always rinse them properly later when we feel more rested. I'll link a video explaining my low-effort cleanup routine at the end of this video too. Also try to use a glass palette every time I paint, whether I'm painting with acrylics or with oils. Glass palettes are wonderful. They scrape clean really easily, and it takes literally a minute to clean up. Or sometimes if I'm really stuck, I might use a disposable paper palettes, but I try not to do that because of environmental reasons. I also like to keep wet wipes or a wet cloth handy, and that helps for simple, quick cleanups. I can just wipe my hands or wipe the desk wherever I've managed to spread paint around, and I managed to spread it around a lot. And then it's also important at the end of a painting to celebrate the achievement, even if it doesn't look the way I originally planned it. The effort I put in is just as valuable as the finished piece. Every little brushstroke counts, and just the fact of showing up and making something is an achievement to be celebrated. And of course, if I'm being honest here, we need to talk about the harder days too. Not every day is a good day for creating. And if creating feels impossible, sometimes it helps me to watch someone else paint instead. I like to watch videos of other artists doing paintings. I make voice notes about colors, ideas, or techniques that I liked, and that would help me later when I'm planning painting on my own. It's also just relaxing to watch someone else paint. I hope you're finding this video relaxing. I also like to keep a light activity list for times when bigger projects just aren't possible. If you'd like a little boost and some light activities, I've created a free 5-minute Creative Boost PDF, and you'll find the link below. It's my gift to you. And I hope you will find it useful. In the PDF, you'll find instant, doable wins in art without demanding a big block of time or energy. Inside the PDF, there's tiny art exercises for when your energy is low. Some days creating can feel impossible. The mini exercises take 5 minutes or less, but still keep your creativity alive. Small steps are still progress. You don't need any special tools, maybe just a pen, pencil, some scrap paper. It's non-perfection based, they're open-ended activities. You don't have to do them perfectly, you just have to have fun. And they're low cognitive load too. I know how it feels on those brain fog days when it's so hard to come up with ideas of your own. Some examples you might find are like contour doodling. You draw without lifting your pen for 1 or 2 minutes, focusing just on shapes and not being accurate or doing anything in particular. You could also draw 5 random shapes and turn each of them into something cute and whimsical, whatever the mood takes you. Speaking of moods, you could fill small boxes with colors that match your current mood. Colors have long been associated with emotions. For example, red might be an emotional color for love, or anger. So you could fill your little boxes with whichever color suits your mood on that day. You could do something like a memory sketch. Draw an object you use every day from your memory without peeping. No peeping, mind. In just 2 minutes, close your eyes, picture the object, and see if you can draw it without looking at it. You could also make tiny collages. I love doing that. I cut or tear scraps from old magazines or junk mail, and I arrange them into little mini artworks. They're so much fun to do, and they're very relaxing. Henri Matisse used to do a lot of collage, and he was a disabled artist too. Matisse was so disabled that he did art from his bed, and I've even read reports where he took a piece of chalk or charcoal on the end of a fishing pole, and while he was lying in his bed, he would draw on the walls around his bed using his fishing pole and charcoal. How's that for dedication? So if Henri Matisse can do it, so can we. There's actually been a lot of artists in the past with disabilities. Frida Kahlo, she used a body brace and depicted her physical struggles with self-portraits. And Claude Monet, whose vision declined so badly from cataracts that he was almost blind at the end of his art career. But it didn't stop him from painting. His work actually looked better towards the end. And of course the most famous one, Vincent van Gogh. That post-impressionist painter, he had epilepsy and most likely bipolar disorder, and his conditions always influenced the unique style of his art. Francisco Goya also had problems. He had profound hearing loss and neurological problems. And of course Michelangelo. He was the famous Renaissance artist from Italy. He had restricted movement in his hands and feet due to gout or osteoarthritis, and that made his work more challenging. But how beautiful was his work despite his challenges. I always like to remind myself of people like that when I'm having an off day, and it helps put things in perspective and motivates me to keep trying and to show up even on the hard days, because any art is better than no art at all. Well, this painting is coming along very nicely. I'm almost finished, but before I do finish it off, I'm going to add the little figures in. When I saw the reference photo for this painting, those little figures on the beach reminded me of all the happy times we've spent on the beach as a family, with my husband holding hands with our sons, walking along the beach, collecting shells, jumping over the waves, looking for crabs. A lot of happy memories, and it's been lovely to sit here and chat with you and paint and remember all the good times. And that's wonderful that art can do that for us. It can take us out of our time and place and take us back to the happy times and happy memories. So let's just sit back, take a minute to enjoy the music and finish off this little painting. Art doesn't have to be exhausting to be meaningful. By pacing yourself and saving energy where you can, you'll make more space for joy and creativity. If you find these tips helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this with a fellow artist who you think might need it. And if you'd like a print-friendly version of these tips that you could print out and keep in your art space for the low-energy days, you can find a link to that in my description box below. Thank you so much for watching and for following along and for subscribing. If you're feeling inspired, you might want to try these tutorials too. And I'll see you in the next video.